Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Giri Bharadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Vallabha Giri Bharadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Banachari Banacha Jamuna Tera Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Vallabha Giri Bharadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Vallabha Giri Bharadari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Banachari Jamuna Tera Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajikacharya Ashtotaraswati Śrīmad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktapinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Syama Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapura Navadvitam Ki, Shri Purushottam Chatra Ki, Shri Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Shri Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Chapter number 3, Yamaraj instructs his messengers, text number 18. Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Durdashalingani Mahadbhutani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Mardyan Atasarvatascha Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Durdashalingani Mahadbhutani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Martyan Atasarvatascha Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Durdashalingani Madhadbhutani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Machanata Sarvatascha Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Durdashalingani Mahadbhutani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Ladies? Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Durdashalingani Madhadbhutani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Atastachacha Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani Rakshanti Tad Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Martyan Atasarvatascha Bhutani. Living entities or servants. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Sura Pujitani, who are worshipped by the demigods. Durda Lingani, possessing forms not easily seen. Maha Adbhutani, greatly wonderful. Rakshanti, they protect. Tat Bhakti Mattaha, the devotees of the Lord. Parebhyaha, from others who are inimical. Mattaha, from me, Yamaraj, and my order carriers. Cha, and Mardyan, the human beings. Atha, thus, Sarvataha, from everything. Cha, and. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu, who are worshipped even by the demigods, possess wonderful bodily features exactly like those of Vishnu and are very rarely seen. The Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from envious persons, and even from my jurisdiction, as well as from natural disturbances. Purport. Yamaraj has specifically described the qualities of the Vishnu Dutas to convince his own servants not to be envious of them. Yamaraj warned the Yamadutas that the Vishnu Dutas are worshipped with respectful obeisances by the demigods and are always very alert to protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from natural disturbances, and from all dangerous conditions in this material world. Sometimes the members of the Krishna Consciousness Society are afraid of the impending danger of world war and ask what would happen to them if a war should occur. In all kinds of danger, they should be confident of their protection by the Vishnu Dutas or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Kunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranasyati. Material danger is not meant for devotees. This is also confirmed in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. In this material world there are dangers at every step, but they are not meant for devotees who have fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotees of Lord Vishnu may rest assured of the Lord's protection, and as long as they are in this material world, they should fully engage in devotional service by preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, namely the Hare Krishna movement of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Vena Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupakada mahyam dadati swapadantikam mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So, what's the first point here? Don't be envious of devotees. Right? Don't be envious of devotees. Here Prabhupada said, Yamaraj has specifically described the qualities of the Vishnu Dutas to convince his own servants not to be envious of them. And why? Because it appears to the Yamadutas that the Vishnu Dutas are outside of their jurisdiction. And of course they are. The devotees are beyond the realm of material existence. Their activities are purely on a spiritual platform. Although that's qualified. That doesn't mean every devotee, because we know there are different levels of devotee. Rupa Goswami recommends us to analyze, to discriminate. We should, sometimes people say, oh, discrimination. We shouldn't discriminate. But we're not, everything's all the same. Everything's all one, because it isn't. It's not. There are subtleties in presentation. There are subtleties in manifestation, and there are subtleties in mood, right? Attitude, or in motivation. This is really it. Motivation, and a lot of what a devotee does is pretty much the same as anybody else. But what is different is their purpose. Right, their purpose. Prabhupada makes a point where there's a desire to serve Krishna but get some material benefits for yourself, that's called karma yoga. Right? Where there's a desire to accumulate knowledge, to impress others with one's erudition, then that's called jnana yoga. Interesting. Right? And where there's a desire to just please Krishna and to serve Krishna, that's called bhakti. Bhakti means that all of one's desires all of one's motivations are basically, the desire is, two things. Mentioned in the 18th chapter, also mentioned in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What is it? Anasrita karma phalam. One gives up the results of one's work to Krishna. One's not attached to the results of what one does. Right? And the other thing mentioned in the beginning of the 18th chapter, or clarified in the beginning of the 18th chapter, is that one works not motivated by personal desire, but rather, again, to please Krishna. Two aspects of that mood of surrender. Right? I'm doing this because Krishna wants me to do it, because it's my duty. Right? This is what Krishna is saying to Arjuna. Right? You do this because this is your service, and the results you give to Krishna. They're not yours. Right? What's that verse? idam Krishnaya idam na mama. This is the verse that when they do the jagyas in Mayapur, at the end of each offering of oblations, idam Krishnaya idam na mama. Here the Gurukul is doing that. Right? What does that mean? This is for Krishna, it is not for me. Right? This is the mood. And of course, the devotees know that they'll be protected. Right? In that regard, in that mood of service or surrender, Prabhupada says, Krishna says, I'll protect you. I'll look after you. Right? And so for the devotee who's in that mood, he or she feels such a connection with Krishna that they're not worried about the future. They're not concerned about, you know, what's that radio station that we're all connected to? You know what that is? WIIFM. You know what that means? What's in it for me? Right? What's in it for me? But a pure devotee is not in it for anything other than for Krishna. Does it for Krishna. And what a wonderful position that is. And it is enviable, actually, right? Who wouldn't be envious of such a person as Srila Prabhupada, because he's such a pure devotee. He's admired by everybody, loved by everyone. Dira dira jano priya priya karo nimatsaro. What is it? Pujito. The six Goswamis were liked by everybody because they weren't envious of anyone, and because everything they did was for the benefit of all. This is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever a devotee does, he or she is loved by everyone because they work for the benefit of everyone. This is a symptom. And so, you know, it's quite easy to be envious of somebody who's liked by everyone. How come you're liked by everyone and nobody likes me? Right? Or how come you're getting respect from everyone and I'm as good as you? Why not me? Right? Have you ever felt like that? No. You're lucky. But Yamaraj is saying to the Yamadutas, don't be envious of the Vishnu Dutas. Which means don't be envious of the devotees, because they're special. They're very special people. And that's a theme that's running through this whole. Ajamil was fallen. Right? Just like most of us are fallen. Well, at least one of us is anyway. So, but when one takes to the chanting of Hare Krishna, we see that Ajamil was fallen, but he was still chanting. Right? And because of that, even though he was fallen, he got an opportunity to perfect his life. And of course, that's afforded to all of us. We all have an opportunity to perfect our lives by chanting Hare Krishna. And even though that's a really simple thing, in one sense, right? I remember once when my wife and I started chanting Hare Krishna, and we were attempting to just start chanting 16 rounds. And Ajahn Charipa said, I can't do this. And I said, what's wrong with you? You can say Hare Krishna and Rama. How hard is it? Right? Anyway, we persevered. And it wasn't easy, actually. I think, we woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, and then had to stay awake to chant Hare Krishna. So, in one sense, okay, very simple, but not necessarily easy. Right? because it requires effort and focus, and you've got to pay attention, and it requires, significant amount of effort. But it looks easy, right? It can be dismissed as not very important, not very significant. But actually, of all of the achievements that you could hope to master, the chanting of Hare Krishna for us is, key, critical to making progress, to being successful in life, really. But for those who do, for those who put the effort into learning how to chant and becoming pure-hearted as a result, because the chanting of Hare Krishna brings it, or enables us to identify where our attachments are internally, right? Where we are still attached to karma, where we're still attached to jnana, and be able to give that up to Krishna. Give it up. So that then our actions, instead of our actions being motivated by personal consideration, they're all motivated by a desire just to please and serve Krishna. And pleasing and serving Krishna means pleasing and serving the devotees as well. What is it mentioned here? That's not. So, yes, even though it may appear that the devotees are, not that important or not very special, or we're all chanting Hare Krishna, and so we're all equal. The external sometimes betrays the internal, what's actually going on within the hearts of the Vaishnavas, within the hearts of the devotees. And so we have to learn to, on the one hand, we have to learn to discriminate between who's a beginner, who's middle, madhyam, and who's an uttama bhakta. We need to be able to discriminate. At the same time, we need to be very, very respectful to all of the devotees and very appreciative of their efforts. Even the so-called little devotees are still big, big personalities. Certainly in the eyes of the demigods, and that's mentioned here, right? What is it? Durdasha lingani, very rarely seen, right? Bhutani Vishnu Surapujitani, the demigods worship the devotees. Again, a recurring theme in this section. Even Srila Prabhupada mentions how when he sees in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada mentions when he sees his disciples wearing tilak and robes, and chanting Hare Krishna, they look like residents of Vaikuntha. Sometimes people wonder, well, why are we wearing dhotis and saris? Why do we dress like that? Why don't we just turn up in our shorts and jeans? It's our heart. It's your heart that matters. Of course it is. Your heart does. But also at the same time, Prabhupada encouraged us to dress in these ways because, in a Bhagavatam, when you hear the descriptions of Krishna and how he appears in Lord Vishnu, you don't hear that he's wearing Levi jeans. 501s. No, he's wearing a golden dhoti, right? That's why Prabhupada wanted us to wear dhotis and saris, because we appear then like demigods, right? We appear like the residents of Vaikuntha and are worshipped here by the demigods, right? Devotee is worshipable. So, and here it's mentioned, Prabhupada mentions, the Vishnu Dutas are worshipped with respectful obeisances by the demigods and are always very alert to protect the devotees of the Lord. And here, from the hands of enemies, from natural disturbances, and from all dangerous conditions in this material world. Right. Now I might say, how come the devotees aren't always protected? Sometimes they meet with accidents. Sometimes, people are getting killed by COVID or whatever. Does that mean they're not being protected? Not necessarily. It may be, and it always is actually, that what happens to us is orchestrated by Krishna. It is arranged by the Lord. So at the same time as we're being protected, we also have to face the fact that the material world, and Krishna warns us, what is it? Dukkhalayam asasvatam. The material creation is a place of misery and temporality. And sometimes, we may meet eventually we're going to meet our demise some point in time. Even though it's said that a devotee lives forever, that's in his spiritual form, not in the material form. Right? So here, the devotees are always protected. Sometimes, and Prabhupada says here, sometimes the devotees wonder, what will happen if there's a world war? What happens if there's a bomb dropping on our head? What was Prabhupada's response when the devotees were asking him this and that? He said, what if there's a bomb dropping on our head? What do we do? Yeah, exactly. This is the Hare Krishna fix all solution. Chant Hare Krishna. Yeah. In all kinds of danger, Prabhupada says, we should be confident of the protection by the Vishnu Dutas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. And that's there for the devotees who are constantly chanting and constantly hearing and who are constantly fixed on their service and performing their service without consideration for personal gain, but because they just like to serve. And this is a symptom. Symptom of a devotee is that they like to serve. Not, oh no, Prabhu, oh no, do I have to do that? Right? We should be happy to serve in any circumstance. So nature, it's a symptom of a devotee, that they like to serve. Whether they're recognized, whether it's menial, whether it's elevated, there's a pleasure derived from doing that service, which is dependent on one's connection with Krishna. And that connection is determined by the purity of intent. Right? When there's a desire to... Well, and that's exemplified by Lord Chaitanya's prayer. Nadanam, najanam, nasundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani jamanishvari bhavatad bhakti ahoitiki tvai. No wealth, no followers, no sundarim, no beautiful women. I don't want those things. But what does he want? Ahoitaki bhakti. Right? Unmotivated bhakti tvai, bhakti to you, devotion to you. Right? This is Lord Chaitanya's prayer. Let me have unmotivated, no money, no followers, no recognition. You know, there are sometimes devotees, they feel, oh, I've been a devotee for so long, you know, why aren't people recognized? I haven't made any progress. People aren't recognizing me. But that's not necessarily, okay, people may recognize you as a devotee, but that's not a measure of advancement. Right? And especially if that's what you want, it's not healthy. I've seen this with my friends, you know, our big Sankirtan collectors in the days when the more paintings you sold, the more advanced you were. Right? But when the paintings era was over and they stopped getting the recognition, a number of those devotees became very depressed and disconsolate because they weren't getting the attention that they were getting before. Right? And it hurt them. You know, it's nice when your name is read out, number one, you know. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. Right? So many book points and so much luxury connected, and then everybody goes, Jai, Jai, Prabhu, Jai. Right? You think, whoa, it's me. Oh, I'm such a wonderful devotee. Right? And we've got to watch out for that because that's actually a trap. Because what about the next day, you know, you're number 20 in a list of, 30 devotees and you're down the bottom. Does that mean that you're a worse devotee than you were the previous day? Of course not. Huh? And these are subtle things. These are subtle things that happen to the devotees that can be obstacles in making progress in devotional service. Wanting to be recognized, wanting to be important. And you know what happens is, I'll tell you what happens, I've done it myself many times. You think that you're special and you get proud and then you commit offenses to others. And then have a guess what happens? Krishna trims you down to size. And you know what happens then? You get angry, you get upset, and then your true character is revealed, and it is embarrassing. Right? You fight with others, and then you realise, oh, what's wrong with me? What's happened? I thought I was a pure devotee. I'm behaving like an idiot. So, we need to be very respectful and pay attention to our motivations and make sure that our service attitude is correct. That we're not looking for, basically material things like money and wealth. Well, same thing. What is it? Money, followers, women. And of course Prabhupada mentions, on the path of bhakti, these things have been obstacles since the beginning of creation. Right? These are not new things. And of course they're gross things. There's the more subtle things that we need to watch out for. Profit, distinction, adoration. What's that? Fame. Yeah, distinction. course, every devotee is distinctive, because they're a devotee. But again, levels. There are levels of bhakti. And the highest is actually that person who is purely motivated to perform their service at all levels and all types of service. We should value the service of every devotee. Not that some services are material and others are spiritual. No. All of the services in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, all of them are spiritual. All of them. Our actions, there are no material action in the Krishna, unless it's motivated for personal benefit. Everything that we do, cleaning, distributing books, worshipping the deities, cooking, managing, all of these activities, they're all purely spiritual. There's not a material activity in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We need to, if we think, oh, he's a manager. The other day, there was a bit of a dispute. Oh, you're just a manager. What is he managing? Krishna's temple. What is he managing? Krishna's kitchen. Krishna's devotees. How is that? That's not material. That's purely spiritual activity. But sometimes, there is this mood sometimes, a manager. Ooh. Well, but if look down on the pot washer, just doing the pots, right? The pot washer, or the toilet cleaner, cleaning the toilet. Oh, material activity, but it's not. Right? What did Amarish Maharaj do when he came to the temple? Marjanadishu. Adi means what? What does Adi mean? Adi. Adi, no, Adi. We have Adi Leela, Madhya Leela and Ancha Leela. What does Adi mean? The first, the beginning. Marjanadishu. So he came to the temple, what did he do? Cleaned it. Right? What is it? Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Sringaratan Mandira Marjanado. Okay. Who can guess what Marjanado means? In that verse. We sing it every morning, right? Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Sringara. What does that mean? Sringara. Dressing the deities, right? Sringara, but Marjanado. What does that mean? First, he cleans the temple. So the Guru, Guru Vastakam, right? The Guru is doing what? Worshipping Krishna. Sri Vigrahara Dana Nitya. Always, right? Always in a variety of ways, right? Nana. Sringara Tan, so dressing the deities, but beginning with cleaning the temple. And engages his disciples in doing this. Is the verse. Right? We sing it every day. But we forget it when it comes to cleaning the temple. Oh no, I've got to wash the pots. Oh, I can't do that. Got to get somebody else we've got to pay somebody to do the pots. But I don't do it. So we've got to be careful. Careful of some of these moods where there's a lack of motivation to serve Krishna. Or, because that's the flip side. There's the desire to, it's a mode of passion actually. Prabhupada mentions, Krishna mentions. The mode of passion where we don't do our duty. We avoid doing our duty. So we have to be careful. We've got to watch out for these. Because then if we're not purely motivated, then we may not get the protection of Krishna, the full protection. We'll certainly get protected. But if we want that full protection and that feeling of complete protection and just the connection with Krishna when it's purely motivated is that we feel, Prabhupada says, you'll feel the ecstasy of serving, right? So purely motivated devotees feel happy doing whatever is required to serve, even if it's difficult. Even if it's difficult. Just like, it wasn't easy for Arjuna to kill his relatives. Could you imagine? What an incredible challenge it was to have to face Bhishma Dev, his grandfather, who he'd been worshipping all of his life, and then he had to face him and with the intent to kill him. Woo! Not easy. And what did Krishna say? Oh, yeah, it's okay, that's pretty hard, you don't have to do that. No. He said, you have to do it. And that's a real test. That's a real test. A test of sincerity is, day in, day out, facing the challenges of life, I suppose. But if we have that mood if that mood is there, then Kontaya Pratijanehi Name Bhakta Pranasyati. Right? My devotee never perishes. Here, Prabhupada says, material danger is not meant for devotees. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. There are dangers at every step, but they are not meant for devotees who have fully surrendered under the lotus feet of the Lord. So that's where we want to be, at that fully surrendered stage, so that we get the full protection. But even if we're not, look what happened to Ajamil. Look, just see the protection that we get, even if we're chanting Hare Krishna and we've still got a little bit of desire in the heart. Or in Ajamil's case, completely fallen, really, when you think about it. But here Prabhupada says, the pure devotees of Lord Vishnu may rest assured of the Lord's protection. And as long as they're in this material world, they should fully engage in devotional service by preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, namely the Hare Krishna movement of Krishna consciousness. So we're in the right place. Right? We're in the right place. We're doing the right things. We want to become pious, right? Because a pious person alone can know Krishna. But what kind of piety? It means a pure, not that you do meritorious deeds or you give in charity or that you build dharmshalas or whatever. No, not that kind of dharma. And of course Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityaja, give up all of this dharma. But there is a piety mentioned in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and that's the piety that comes from bhakti, pure devotion. And the way we arrive at that's very interesting. We do that through hearing and chanting, the very basics of bhakti. Right? Hearing and chanting. Chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And what? Chanting the Bhagavatam, chanting the Bhagavad Gita, chanting Brahma Samhita. Hearing and chanting. Because that builds, it's like, hearing and chanting is like, spiritual bodybuilding, and it's building your spiritual body, right? And building spiritual strength, right? And it comes I mentioned this the other day, in the latest Back to Godhead, there's this article where Prabhupada says, we become fixed in consciousness by kirtanam. So hearing, and of course with kirtan is hearing. Come in. Is her first day at school today? Or second? Okay, it's a freaky world out there. But Krishna's protecting us, even when we go to school. Krishna protecting you when you go to school, Surabhi? Yep. Although I think you could probably look after yourself. Okay, any comments or questions on any of these points? We should respect the Vaishnavas, but we should know we should learn to appreciate the different levels of bhakti, right? And we should aim ourselves to be pure devotees. And we do that by chanting Hare Krishna and by regularly reciting the Vedic literature, and many things, right? Taking prasadam, associating with the devotees, preaching, like Prabhupada says here, I didn't get onto this point, but preaching, book distribution. Priya. Oh, hang on. Sibya had a hand up first. She's senior to you. I didn't. Was that about Gajendra?
Yeah. Well,
It's on, but
Gajendra
I have difficulty because you're talking.
When Gajendra chanted, the Supreme Lord came himself. The Lord came directly, but when Ajamila chanted Narayana, the Vishnudutas came. So why come there and the Lord come here?
It's a good question. I don't know. Because it's not. I can't recall it being explained. But let's see. You see, Gajendra's situation was a very special one. And in the course of his fighting with the crocodile, because this is Maharaj Inajumna, wasn't it? And Maharaj Huhu, wasn't it? In the form of the crocodile. Right. So there was two devotees actually fighting, when you think about it. Or demigod and a devotee. Devotees, right? And it was an opportunity for Gajendra, the fallen devotee, to remember the Lord. Right? He remembered the prayers of his previous life. And that spontaneous show of what? Dependence? Right? Spontaneous show of dependence was so powerful and so strong that the Lord came himself. Right? See how powerful his bhakti was, that he got the darshan of the Lord. And he must have done something pretty, to take birth as an elephant, he must have done something a bit off. Right? You would think. What did Indrajuna Maharaj do to have to take birth as Gajendra the elephant? What did he do? offended a devotee, huh?
He didn't receive Agastya with respect. Actually, he was meditating on the Lord. He forgot to receive the devotee.
A slip-up. Minor slip-up, but still he had to take birth as an elephant. Which shows how careful we have to be in dealing with devotees. Because ordinarily, a devotee doesn't take birth as an animal. But we see with Bharat Maharaj, even with Arjuna Maharaj, a discrepancy, but still as a result of their previous pious activities, they got elevated, they were liberated, right? Even though Bharat Maharaj was born as a deer, he could still remember his previous life. So not an ordinary animal, not deeply in the mode of ignorance. But in Arjuna Maharaj taking birth as Gajendra, most of the time I guess he was in ignorance, enjoying himself as the king of the elephants. But at the time of that struggle, by Krishna's arrangement, he remembered his previous, and the Lord himself appeared. So obviously special, very, very special personality, right? Whereas Ajamil was saved by the devotees. But the interesting thing is he got the same result, or pretty much the close to be the same. You know, he got elevated to Vaikuntha, just like Arjuna was reinstated as a devotee. So, why? I don't. It's Leela. Leela Shakti. Krishna's in control. Anything can happen, right? But interesting, you see, and why we have to be respectful to the devotees, because even if it's just a devotee that came, still you get perfect. What is it? Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastrakoi Labha Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So you get the association of a devotee, you still get perfection, right? And it's rare. It is actually very, and this is why Arjuna Maharaj is such a special personality, right? The original Arjuna Maharaj and also the current Arjuna Maharaj is a special personality, right? But the original, in that the Lord came, and it's not very often that the Lord comes. You see in the pastimes that the Lord himself appears to save somebody. Not always like that. Often, but not, it's quite rare. So why? Well, that's who. Yeah, interesting. Good, a very good question. We can meditate on this all day long and never come up and not know why. Sibya, what I want you to do is go and have a look in the pastime of Indajunam and see if there's a mention, okay? And then you can report back. This is your homework. Bhagavatam homework. And that's why I took.
Where he was on, he took a silence, and then when Agastya Muni came, he did not break it or not break it. So then he took offense.
Yeah.
When they called out to Narayana saying that in his past they will give him
Okay. Yes. Why not? It's a speculation, but it's speculation based on Shastra, so it's okay. Yeah. Prabhupada says you can speculate, make things up, and you do it based on the evidence, right? What the statements of Shastra, then it's fine. And that's what we should be doing. That's what the Bhagavatam's for, actually. It's for thinking, right? It's for stimulating thoughts about bhakti, devotional service, and thinking, what is it? What is it? Why is... And it's good. That's why it's a good question. Did you come up with that idea yourself, Sibya, or did you get that from someone else? Very good. How old are you? 8. Great. Huh? 10. Oh, much bigger. Okay, very good. I wish I was thinking such things at the age of 10. Huh? God knows what I was thinking of. At 10. I can tell you. But I won't. It was Yellow Submarine and Hello Goodbye and other pop trivia. Tijuana Taxi. Hare Krishna. Comment?
Yes, Prabhu. Based on how you began the class at the different levels of devotees,
Yes.
would that be a reason how the Lord reciprocates with his advancement?
Well, that's what Priya's saying, and you're developing that idea. Yeah, interesting. But here's the thing, you see. Does that mean a devotee is not as good as getting Lord Vishnu's presence?
The second point is, Vishnu Dutas are not different from the Lord. The previous purport, Prabhupada says that they are equally...
That's right. When a devotee comes, it's as good as Narayan. Right? You know, when a devotee comes, and you know, some of the devotees that preached to me when I was a young, they're not practicing anymore. One of them I know is who left his body in very questionable circumstances. But when he preached to me, he increased my faith in the chanting of Hare Krishna. So just because a devotee had some difficulty later on doesn't mean that at that time when he and the thing is, what does a devotee do? What does Prabhupada say is a qualification of a guru? First qualification of a guru, what is it? Huh? What is it? Oh yes, but what does he do? And what does he preach? About Krishna. And what? In what way? In what way? He repeats the same message. Repeats the same message as Krishna. Perhaps appropriate for time, place and circumstance, but it's still consistent with Krishna's message. Right? So if you're presenting Krishna's message faithfully, right, it'll have an effect. Because, and it's very interesting, in the Dasamula Tattva, the first principle is Amnaya Tattva. And the Amnaya Tattva means the faithful presentation of the Vedas through the disciplic succession. Right? It's a principle of our Tattva, our Vaishnav Tattva, right? This principle of disciplic succession, and the disciplic succession presenting the Vedas, or the Vedic, what is it? Presenting faithfully our Siddhanta, effectively, right? So if a devotee is representing the Parampara, Prabhupada gives the example, it's like an electrical connection where you plug into the power point and you're immediately connected to the powerhouse. Even though the plug is hundreds of kilometres away from the powerhouse, you plug it in, turn it on, bzzz, right? Look, at the moment the electricity is out in Prabhupada house because we're not connected properly. And we're going to have to pay the electrician quite a few $1,000s to fix it. Right? No, but keep in mind that some of that wiring is over 100 years old. Right? So that's why it needs to be. We need to fix it up so that we don't have to look at it again for another 100 years. Right? But you want to be connected. Not properly connected, click the switch, no light. Right? And this is the beauty of the parampara. A devotee Krishna is more than light years away. He's in the spiritual world, and we're stuck in the depths of ignorance in the material world. So Krishna is so far away we can't see him. But with the association of a devotee, following this principle of Amnaya Tattva, following the Guru Parampara, faithfully presenting the Vedic message, then boom, what happens? All of a sudden, Krishna comes very close to us. Right? What we couldn't understand or failed to understand without the association of the devotees. When we got the association of the devotees, then all of a sudden this notion of Krishna and him being so far away and unapproachable, all of a sudden, we feel, oh yeah, Krishna's real. And I can have a relationship with him, right? All through the association of a devotee. So good point. Getting the association of a devotee is as good as getting Krishna's association. Because they bring Krishna so, close to us.
Vijay was mentioning that Ajamil didn't mean to call Narayan. He was just calling his son. Gajendra knew that.
Yes, good point. Yep. He called specifically the Lord, whereas Ajamil was a bit mixed up. But but mixed up enough for the Vishnu Dutas to come. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us? Don't give up hope. Keep chanting. Devotees more merciful than the Lord. Ooh, yes, that's interesting. Yeah. The Vishnu Dutas came because he was chanting the name of Narayan. And so that underlines the potency of chanting Hare Krishna. We don't sometimes appreciate how fortunate we are when we chant. And how, we're creating our piety. Well, Prabhupada's actually created our piety for us by getting us to chant. And sometimes you're chanting Hare Krishna, it feels like you're chewing cardboard. Right? You ever had that experience? Or it's late at night, and you just... right? And you think, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard. Huh? The mind, lazy mind. This is too hard, you should stop. But you keep going. It's funny, last night I was feeling terrible, 8 o'clock, and I had quite a few rounds to chant. And when I started off, it just felt like, oh, God, I'm just getting nowhere. And then I realised when I chant, I'm often thinking, when am I going to enjoy this? When am I going to get something out of it? And then I kind of realised, not the right attitude. Just do it because you should do it. Right? Got to practice what you preach, right? And then as I got closer to finishing off my rounds, even though it was late, but as I got closer, I started getting energy. The chanting was, I was hearing the mantra. At least I was hearing the mantra. That as much as I can admit. So, sometime, and Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, what's poison in the beginning, right, but becomes nectar in the end is the mode of goodness. So we got to keep up that. We just got to keep up that attitude. even though sometimes it's hard, it's like dark, black, you can't, Om Ajnana, right? You've just, everything is ignorance when you chant, and everything just looks black. Have you experienced that while you're chanting? I have, anyway. You may not, because sometimes it's just chanting Hare Krishna, I just feel so bad. There was a song by the Rolling Stones in the mid-60s. It was called Paint It Black. Right. And it's a song about his depression, the fellow's depression. I see a red door and I want to paint it black. This is how the song goes, just about his depression. And the mind can be like that sometimes, just black. Right? So what do? Give up? No. Keep chanting, and then, that's also mentioned by Rupa Goswami. It's like the tongue is afflicted with the jaundice of ignorance, right? And so what does it do? It doesn't want to chant. And when you've got jaundice and you taste something sweet, it tastes bitter. Right? So when we're in this materially afflicted stage, when we chant, it feels horrible. Oh no, ouch. You just got to keep chanting, and then because that's the medicine, and it's actually sweet, when you take the medicine, then what happens? The chanting becomes more and more relishable, and by the time you've got the 16 rounds, it's like, Kah! Yoo-hoo! Let's do it. Right? That's what happens. Unless we're chanting offensively or whatever. That's where we've got to look internally. But all right, thank you. Nice points. Thanks, Sibya. Although Sibya gone to school? Yeah. We kept her here all of that time so she could ask that question. And thanks, Priya, and thanks, Hari. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.